Oh, I'm covered up. Hold on. Dang, I was on a little too. Hello, everyone. Say hi to everybody in chat here. Talking about the Rust case today. There's actually been developments this week, and I will go over what happened generally. But I think most people have a general idea what happened in terms of the Western movie Rust and the tragic death of Halyna Hutchins. Less talked about is that the director Joel Souza was also shot in the process. He had some cast off that hit him. He had some burns. But there's been a lot of back and forth legal maneuvering since then. And of course, there is fault. There was some errors, there was some fault. The discussion becomes who's at fault, whom, there could be more than one. And there's a lot of information that's gone back and forth on responsibilities on a movie set, who ultimately was responsible. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'll give you the updates. And we're going to be set up nicely for next week, just kind of having a free-for-all conversation because there's very strong opinions on this. And it's kind of what drew me to it to begin with. I kind of like to go over the kind of controversial and kind of higher level conversation, legal things on these Saturday shows. And this is definitely one of them. And I have a feeling it'll get a little, let me put it this way. There's argument on whether there's any political flair that goes into this. And there's some of the things that came down this week, some of the filings this past week are setting this up to be even more discussed in that way. We're going to talk about why that is. But let me kind of launch us in. So Halyna Hutchins was a cinematographer. She was an up-and-coming cinematographer, but she had accolades, and she was lovely. Everybody that worked with her loved working with her. She worked in TV, cinema. Let me pull up a screen here. I'm going to show you her website because her website is still active. On the website, by the way, you can still, if they still keep it current. They don't put things about the case. It's really kind of to remember her and her career. And on the very home page, though, let me get back to that. On the home page here, you can see it starts out with the Halyna Hutchins Memorial Scholarship Fund. If at any time during this, if anybody wants to honor her memory, this is the official place that you would do that. You click in here, it takes you to the American Film Institute. They want these go specifically in her name. So just something to keep in mind if, at any time. Again, a lot of true crime cases, you know what I mean? Sometimes the victim really does get lost in the shuffle. And so that's why I wanted to start with her. Now her husband is Matthew, and we'll talk about him later, but she also has a young son. And so she was taken at a young age, at kind of the upstart of her career. Now, Rust was an independent film. Producer credit was also something that Alec Baldwin had, but we'll talk about this because there were I'll put it to you this way. There were 5 other producers, and I mean like top level producers besides him. So 6 total producers and 4 additional executive producers. So 9 total producers. And this has become another arm of this, which is Hollywood's input into it. Because it's brought up this larger question, what's a producer? What is a producer's role? What's their responsibility? What's an actor's role on a set where there is firearms? And where does that come from? So we'll look at some of that as well. So here you're going to find her commercial reels, her general reel. And then her about information is where we're, but you can just see, I mean, for cinematography, she was just amazing. And even here on the narrative screen, where it's just a lot of her projects, you can see that she was very artful in everything she's done. There's discrepancies, by the way. So of course, her family's filed a series of wrongful death civil suits, including one against Alec Baldwin. There's some discrepancies between some of the people that were on set that day and the families' allegations about what they were looking for. It's in the playlist. Let me drop the playlist in there or Crafton, can you drop the playlist? It's off of, if you go to my channel and then playlist, that way, because I'm still sharing screen, so I don't want to. But she was awarded American Cinematographer's Rising Star Award in 2019. 2018, she was given the role of cinematographer for 21st Century Fox DP Lab. She's originally from the Ukraine, and then it's got some of her films. She did a lot of TV as well, but everybody, like the general consensus is that she's very, very professional. She gets along very well with others, and she was known to put in her writers that she wanted to have students. She wanted to have like a mentee on her projects. So along with Halyna, they would get, she was always mentoring the next generation, which is probably also why Matthew and her family chose for, financial honoring of her to go to young up and coming cinematographers that are still learning their craft. So lovely woman. Alec Baldwin had a strong reaction. In the playlist, you'll also find, did I have my overlay up the whole time? I totally did. That's okay. Here, let me drop you guys this is her website. I will pin it, or if one of the mods can pin it. Anyone who wants to check out her work, some of her accolades, but especially if you're interested in donating anything in her honor, this is where you would go to do that. So I'll go back here real quick. I'm just going to share again super duper fast since I had the overlay over. So the website is HalynaHutchinsDP.com. Let me take you to the main one. So I was showing here, but the one I really want people to see. It's kind of a sampling of her aesthetic, okay, and some of the projects she's worked on. So this was a find for them. So Rust is a little indie project. You know what I mean? I had some screen shares that I did during this. Now, Halyna, again, she's kind of up and comer, so she wasn't like commanding top dollar. You know what I mean? She wouldn't be like an A-list kind of, but she was getting there, and she was the first pick for cinematographer. And everybody had nothing but great things to say about her, including Alec Baldwin, including Hannah Gutierrez Reed. So this was just a loss, and a loss for everybody on that movie. This was really devastating. So as an independent movie, they had multiple, as I discussed, producers, right? So this is going to become something to talk about later, okay? When we start to get into all the different things that go into who was responsible, because we all know that Alec Baldwin's a producer. In fact, one of the updates I can give you right away, there are multiple civil lawsuits from Halyna Hutchins' family There is reason to believe the one with Alec Baldwin has been settled. Now, I can't get to the specifics of the settlement except for one piece, which is suddenly Matthew Hutchins is a producer when Rust resumes, which is expected this spring. So suddenly the project is back on. It's a go. Matthew was part of selecting the next cinematographer. So they have replaced Halyna now, and they are gearing up to go. That means, for sure, Alec Baldwin's has been settled with the family, okay? So part of the settlement, for sure, is her husband is now a producer. So when I'm talking about who the producers are and how many there are, there's now another one. There's no indication that any other producer's off. Of course, Alec Baldwin is still scheduled as the actor, still on the production role. Now, the interesting thing about Alec Baldwin is that he was also listed as a co-writer with director Joel Souza. And that's where I'm going to take you to this next interesting little article about what is a producer, okay? Because here's what I thought. Everybody who heard that these two individuals, so the head armor, okay, which was Hannah Gutierrez Reed, who we're going to talk about her and her experience shortly. But the head armorer and Alec Baldwin were the two that were charged. Now, my initial thought is, okay, so there's some issues, and we're going to talk about those safety issues and the things that happened before this that could lead to some negligence on someone like a producer's watch. That was what I thought anyway. Well, then came this thought and some research about, well, what does that mean, a producer anyway, right? And so I went to some Hollywood publications, different things. And I liked this one the best. I felt like this one summed it up, right? So it's from the LA Times, specifically discussing Rust, okay? Up here, producer Alec Baldwin, Matt Del Piano. Now, Matt is Baldwin's manager, okay? So that's just like an extension of him, okay? But we'll count him as an individual. But that to me was like, that's still... Then I'm going Ryan Smith, Angel Nygam, Nathan Cleninger, and Ryan Wisterner, right? So I'm like, well, that's quite a few producers. And then 4 executive producers. So it goes on to explain how executive producers actually in the television realm are actually the higher responsibility. They're the more hands-on in terms of employment. Because that's really what I think maybe for me, the thought of producer conjured up is that somehow they have an oversight role, right? The more I read, the more I'm like, ugh. So, I mean, I read there's a Variety article up here on my tab too, but I took a different article from Variety, but this is the LA Times who spoke to different insiders in Hollywood. So I think they sum it up good. I can't say it any better, so I'm just going to read it. Sometimes the credit of producer is what they're talking about is simply a vanity title to boost an actor's sense of involvement in a project. Sometimes it's a way to defer upfront fees to a performer in favor of back-end payments. So a way to pay them after the fact. Sometimes an actor is so deeply involved with the project, the credit's a way to make official their added influence along the way. Distinctions between an executive producer and a producer credit also come into play in determining awards eligibility and who amongst the production team potentially gets to take home a statue. I thought that was interesting. So there's a little bit of like, Hollywood politicking that goes with a production credential, a producer credential that I never knew existed. So apparently, if they're going to be part of who gets, a statue for whatever, whether it's television, movies, anything like that, that's the distinction they have to give the individual for that person to be eligible to be one of those people that's up on stage holding the statue with their name on it. Only producers are eligible for Oscar nominations, not the executive producer. Meanwhile, in television, executive producer is often the more hands-on credit, including for the showrunners, all of which can dilute the true meaning of the title. This Rust situation opens up the whole discussion about what a producer is and who the buck really stops with. Who's responsible for Halyna's death? So it's an Independent Spirit Award-winning producer on films. Her name is Minette Louie, who they're speaking to here. And she says, when you have a bunch of executives and managers and actors and people who aren't really producers in a hands-on way, where you're seeing to the cast and crew and the safety and the liability of the production, then who does the buck stop with? There generally is not a way to unravel it when you're sitting from the outside of that production. And so this is Travis Knox, associate producer from Chapman University. You know, he's been a lead producer on set, blah, blah, blah. He says, you just don't know. So to me, what I gather from that and everything else I'm reading is that really it's cultural depending on the movie. So each work set, each work condition for those that work in productions for TV, movies, things like that, the title of producer doesn't actually have a set title. But they talk a little more about what it could indicate here. It says on a copy of the Rust screenplay, so the original screenplay, obtained by the Times, Baldwin shares story credit with the film's director, Joel Souza. Now, Joel Souza was also injured in this, by the way, didn't bring suit, which does point to a higher level of involvement in the project's creative development. He, Baldwin, also has a producing credit on Souza's previous films, Crown Vic, blah, 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 where he wasn't an actor. I'm not going to read the rest. The rest kind of goes in. It's interesting, by the way. Let me put this one in there too, because this is actually a great article if you want to get deeper into this, because it does go on to explain Alec Baldwin's prior producer credits, the role in Hollywood in terms of what a producer means, different examples of the vast differences. It's really a good article. So I'm going to put that over here. So the fact that he wrote it, so it's a creative control. Now it goes on, there's different sources that said really Alec Baldwin had zero hands-on oversight of the production crew. And that was actually delegated to a different producer. Okay. I am going, let me see here. Let me just kind of introduce who the people are. So Hannah Gutierrez Reed. I want to talk about her example. So in terms of who hired Hannah Gutierrez Reed, one of the producers, not Alec Baldwin, was in charge of kind of oversight of the hiring process. Okay. Now Hannah Gutierrez Reed is the daughter of Thel Reed. And you have to understand who Thel Reed is to understand when I'm about to play you some of her interrogation and you're going to die. I'm only going to play you her experience. Okay. So we're not going to go through the whole thing. That's all in the playlist. And I don't want to veer off too much because I want to just get through this so we can talk about the legal issues. But her dad is like legend in Hollywood. Okay. He's one of the longest running armorers. He's known for the quick draws of those early day black and whites. You know, he's been in this thing a long, long time. Okay. He worked on Tombstone and he's worked on a ton of others. Let me show you his IMDb. We're just going to look at a couple pictures. So to get an idea of where she comes, because she's 24. She's 24 when she gets this job and she's only had one other job. And there were complaints on her first job. So, you know, I had to show this because there he is with my third favorite guy in the world. Pretty cool, right, honey? All right. So there he is working with Matthew McConaughey on the Newton Boys. Ben Johnson. Bruce Willis. Advertisement. Russell Crowe, Proof of Life. Life's My Father. James Mangold. Christian Bale. And the list goes on. Okay. So my favorite movie when I read through all his movies that I have seen, it's kind of my, era, was Tombstone. So he did all the work on Tombstone. So these are very gun heavy movies. He did Westerns. He did these really gun forward movies. Hannah Gutierrez Reed will cite her experience as 5 times being kind of his mentee on his movies. And then finally, right before she went on to rest, her first crack at doing this herself is a Western called The Old Way with Nick Cage. There were issues with that, okay? Now, filming occurred in the same kind of place, right? And we're going to listen to, the supplier, the prop supplier in New Mexico that worked The Old Way and Rust was interrogated after Halyna died. Now, Halyna, this was not an active set, okay? So this was rehearsals when, and again, this is where we're going to have great discussions, right? Discharge of the gun versus firing the gun, okay? There are discrepancies, including in Alec Baldwin's statements, okay? He more than once has said different things, okay? Let's log into this. This one, let me grab you his name. His name's Seth Kenny. I have not been reading chat. Okay, it's about a 3-minute news clip. Let me look at comments real quick first. I'm sure there's been discussion I missed. Hi, Wyoming Adventures. Hello, Rose. Memphis Mama. Witchy Nicole. Yeah, there's several things that are really, no one was ever charged either with the Crow. Well, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about if it was his responsibility to check the gun, because OSHA issued its ruling as well. Now, I'm gonna start out, right, because people are gonna start getting upset here. Do I think that he has liability? I do. Okay. I think that as a producer, he has liability with the other producers. Now, as a result of OSHA's release that we're going to read, that conclusively exonerates him in his role, one of 9 of producer/executive producers, he had no oversight and had no interaction with staff outside of showing up for his acting time. Okay. Universally, the unions and associations stand by the same thing. So I think that the nature of it is different. Now, as a matter of my own opinion, so it's kind of skipping to the end here, I think his liability rests with the other producers in that all of them had a responsibility in light of some things that had happened on set in the prior week. They all had the responsibility to do an investigation and to pull certain guns out of commission on that set. As an actor, I don't think he did anything wrong. That is my opinion too. With Witchy Nicole. Live rounds never should have been on the set. Never, ever, ever. And that's just always. It's scary actually if you think about that, because this isn't unusual. If we think about all the movies we see that have some sort of guns or action sequences and all that, even just going through Fel Reed's kind of highlight photos here a minute ago, it makes us rethink about all the Westerns that are out there. All the there's a lot of that. Guns are not an unusual thing in Hollywood. We are going to hear from somebody who's been in the business for a while. He used to be kind of top tier military. And in his retirement, he's gone to work in Hollywood. And he's going to discuss, because it's important that we understand the difference between blanks, dummies, and live rounds, and how it is on a movie set that you know that. Okay. It is not industry standard for an actor to check their gun. So I'll just put that out there. I've been researching the heck out of this because I was like, I don't know how I feel about it. And I feel like I'm getting closer, but that's because we're farther out. When this first came about, I didn't know. And the more I've read, and again, it's taken investigations. I mean, investigations take some time. But the OSHA one, I think, is very enlightening. I love Tombstone. It's like a Val Kilmer fanatic. Loved Val Kilmer. Okay, cool. So here we are. Hey, Sugar Beet. Okay, good. So Wyoming knows the difference. See, and I don't. I'm a city girl, right? So I had to learn all this stuff. I'm like, because I'm going, okay. But it's interesting. It's interesting when you start to hear about and the different functions each play for something like a movie where you need that illusion while still maintaining the safety. It was news to me because I've used blanks and dummies interchangeably until I researched it. So let me get this pulled up. Of course, Aiden must be on the computer. No, we don't want the ad. I'm very proud of Kenny, by the way. We do have squirrels right now. He's not. Well, I spoke too soon. There we go.
No, that's a car.
Okay, here we go.
The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office released thousands of files last week tied to their investigation. John Carnelli has been digging through the files, and John, for the first time, we're hearing from the person who supplied ammo and guns for the movie.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Kaylin. Seth Kenny, owner of PDQ Arm and Prop here in Albuquerque, supplied Rust with guns and ammo. And in his interview with Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office, he says he had a conversation with Rust armor Hannah Gutierrez Reed that was quite alarming. For the first time, we're hearing from the man who supplied the movie Rust with its guns and ammo.
I wish she would just come forward. She thinks she's going to get away with this.
That's Seth Kenny. He owns PDQ Arm and Prop in Albuquerque. In his interview with investigators, he asks if anyone has mentioned if Rust
Kenny?
fired 5 rounds on Sunday.
All right, let's wait for Kenny to get his out. The things I'm going to be showing on screen, you guys, these are Hannah Gutierrez Reed's lawyers' responses. All right. Okay. He's like, fuck Alec Baldwin. All right. We good?
You know, and if she was shooting, I don't know if you've actually been able to get any statements.
I haven't had anyone come forward.
Really?
After the investigator says no one has come forward, Kenny brings up an alleged text conversation he had with Gutierrez Reed on August 15th, 2021.
She wanted to shoot live ammo out of the guns, the TV movie guns. And I said, no effing way, obviously.
Yeah.
And then she acknowledged, but then down below, right, you did see where she said, okay, fine, I'm going to shoot him out of mine now.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
What does she own?
She owns a 45 Long Colt of a single action army. It's a reproduction.
Last week, Gutierrez Reed's lawyer, Jason Bowles, released a statement in a letter to the Santa Fe County District Attorney, saying in part, Hannah as armor is required to know the functionality of weapons and to have good working knowledge of their features, including their safe handling. In texts, Hannah asked Seth if she could fire live rounds through a trap door, meaning a historical weapon, a spring-filled trap door. Hannah wanted to fire the historical weapon after working hours and off the production set. Seth stated that live rounds shouldn't be fired through prop weapons, and Hannah listened. And in the statement, Bowles also says the conversation happened while Gutierrez Reed was working on another movie called The Old Way. I'm John Carnelli reporting KOAT Action 7 News. News.
John, thank you. After investigators conducted the interview, Kinney's prop shop was searched. There were live and dummy rounds found there.
So that, by the way, he's not been charged, but I found that one interesting. So the prop shop itself had both. So, I mean, it's you know, as we get farther into this, in the search of the set, they found both. There was a 500 box of ammo. In it were live rounds, like throughout, you know, mixed in. That's freaky. Okay. So that's how these kind of things could happen. But yet the person who supplied it, they've been rated. I mean, no charges have come up. Does that mean anything? I don't know. You know, it depends on if we believe that the police did all their due diligence in the investigation. Let's talk about the old way.
Experiencing some digestive woes? Let me introduce you to
learning that Assistant Director David Halls is admitting to safety lapses on the set, according to a new search warrant. Halls told investigators that he could only remember seeing 3 rounds in the Colt pistol. He says he should have checked all of them and couldn't recall if Hannah spun the drum to inspect all chambers. Hannah Gutierrez Reed was the subject of gun safety complaints on a Nicolas Cage Western, The Old Way, which was filmed just 2 months ago, according to Stu Brumbaugh, who worked on the set.
There were some incidents that kind of raised some red flags with me.
He says she fired a gun several times without warning, infuriating Nicolas Cage.
He just said, "Can we please make an announcement on set when we're, firing guns?" He goes, "You blew my eardrums out, and he was visibly upset and kind of walked off.
Veteran prop master Dutch Merrick says the lack of safety on the set of Rust is incomprehensible.
There were crew members firing live bullets near the set, which is, it's literally unimaginable in Hollywood. Everybody's just stunned that someone would have the lack of common sense to have live rounds on a film set.
The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department says they have interviewed Baldwin multiple times and he has been cooperating with the investigation.
Thank you, Inside Edition, for your lovely reporting. So I want to hear, so this one over here, this is Hannah Gutierrez Reed's, this little still shot here, that's from her second interview. She had several, okay? I put a couple of them in over on the other, hold on real quick, because I just have to pull, I did like a marker for myself so I could just click into it. So this is going to be from her interrogation, you guys, and it's going to run about 4 minutes. So this is her talking about her experience when she was brought in. And she's also going to allude. So at this point, we have confirmation. There's just confirmation everywhere that she did have issues on her prior movie, including from the head actor. She was firing rounds. You're going to hear her say her side of the story. But that was a crew member. And then you have Nick Cage himself. What they were saying is that she was firing without announcing it first, which is industry standard. Okay. There's not even supposed to be live rounds, right? But either way, if you're going to fire a blank, even like you need to announce that it's important. And what their claim is that she did not do that. So she's going to talk about her experience, what she's worked on, if there were any problems, and let's hear how she describes herself. Kenny. About 30 seconds. Hold on. I just have to unmute. Mm-hmm. So there's her resume, right? I've thrown it up here a few times because I do think it's relevant. This little indie film, right? Her total.
You weren't playing it. Your sound wasn't playing
At all during the whole thing.
Yeah. We're saying.
They couldn't hear any of that.
Yeah, play it. Was that in a tab?
Yes.
Make sure you're checking that box, share tab audio.
Okay. Hold on, we're doing it again, you guys. Oops, gotta find my start point again. You should have headphones on so you can hear. Until I figure this shit out. 45.
Are you saying I didn't spin the dials and let everybody know
Yes,
that
it's
there
your
was sound?
fault. Well, they don't know what you're even talking. They don't even know the inside joke there if they couldn't hear that. All right, hold on. Paused. We're paused. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so I still hit share screen, but then just do audio.
Well, you still hit share screen, yeah.
Well, it says share tab audio, but how do you not share the image?
don't want to share the image?
No.
Oh, that's why I didn't. You can, I guess, play it again.
I don't know why it wouldn't have played because I'm not muted. Do you have your headphones in here? Yeah, my bottle. My little head's not moving, so that means it's not coming through. Hold on, you guys. I'm going to do it through my phone. That might work better.
All right, Hannah, so we'll start out. I'm going to kind of go over your experience again, okay? So can you tell me your years of experience as an armorer?
Okay, so pretty much mostly really started taking on this armor job in March with my dad. We did the movie Murder at Immigrant Gulch together on the same team. I was his assistant. And then I did my own job as head armor on the Old Way after that. And then after that, I did this, you know. And before that, I had gone on a couple of things with my dad, mostly doing production assistant work, but also still kind of watching him and still kind of learning from him on the side.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I did Magnificent Seven like back in 2015, and we were out there for like 2 months, and I was learning a lot from him then too.
okay, so pretty much just assisting him
Yeah,
from 2015 until...
Yeah, pretty much. And also, well, not like consistently either, because I was in college for a lot of that time.
Okay.
Yeah, so for a lot of before this, I was in college, so not really able to do the whole film set thing.
Okay. What did you go to college for?
I went to college for communications and film.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also took a lot of art classes too.
So how many productions now do you have under your belt?
Through cinema, whatchamacallit, about seven. Seven, yeah, and then also I did a bunch in college, you know.
And then how many with you as head armor?
Head armor, just 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was
this, Rust, and the Old Way, yeah.
Okay. How long did you spend on the Old Way?
We did that for a month and a week.
Oh, so like not that much time.
Not that much time. No. But it was only me doing the guns on it. So it was me, 22 guns, doing all of the loading and everything myself.
Okay. Anything negative or anything happen on that set?
Nick Cage got a little pissy because he forgot to put in his earplugs.
Okay.
Yeah, and then other people were talking about the random firings that apparently weren't called out or anything, but I called those out actually, and it really comes down to a miscommunication between, I told the AD who's supposed to spin the dials to the other channels and let them know that there's going to be live fire, and he didn't spin the dials.
So like radio communication?
Yeah, so our walkie-talkies and everything, yeah. Once I tell them that we're like going hot and everything, then he's supposed to spin the dials and let every different one know.
Okay.
So he forgot to do that twice on that.
But any, like misfires, accidental discharges, anything of the sort?
No accidental discharges and no misfires actually.
Okay. What about any official training that you've done?
Official training? Not really much official training.
Neat. You still have me muted, honey? No, good. All right, so sorry that we had to do that twice for you to be able to hear it. So that's her resume in her own words, right? So before this, she was her dad's executive, like her dad's assistant on one movie, March of that same year. Okay. This occurrence happened in October. Between that, she got her first break, right, for The Old Way, where there were multiple concerns. Yes, and if I'd have let that play, what you would have heard is that at the time, she didn't even have her concealed carry permit. Little factoid. So, is she, I don't know, if you're capable of a job, you're capable of a job, right? Is it the person who hires you into their company? Is that the one who's at fault if you hire someone who can't do the job? I mean, that becomes the bigger question, right? So if you are given a job that's above your head, is that the problem of the person who did it? Because let's not forget, she's a legacy. Okay. So this was probably like, oh, wow, we got, Phil Reed's kid. That's amazing, But this was not just Nick Cage. So she says like, oh, he got a little pissy because like he forgot to put his earbuds in or his, his ear protection in. Well, there's other sources for that. And so it's more than just one. And there's, her attorneys have come forward with some real crazy things. But before I forget to do it, let's listen to this about the differences with the ammo, because this is like a key function of the job. Okay, this is what's important here.
DBs are inside, and you shake it, and you can hear an audible sound and also physically feel the DB shaking in there. And that is a way to check whether or not anything other than a dummy round is present. A blank round is very easy to identify as it has a crimp at the end of it. The crimp holds the gunpowder on the inside. It has gunpowder, but no projectile. And the primer hasn't been struck. So it can detonate the gunpowder and it can give the report, the sound, the concussion, everything that comes out of the end of it. Okay. And that's the only two rounds that should be on a movie set. A live round never has a place, as I've said many times before.
And what's the difference between the firing capability, the sound, the look of a dummy versus a blank?
Well, a dummy will not fire. A dummy is just there. And in this particular case, you see a Western belt from a character in an old West movie, any Western that you like, and you'll see they're wearing the gun belt and they've got the gun on. Well, they have bullet loops in that, and in those bullet loops, you need to have generally something to make it look right for the character. Well, that's an example of where a dummy round would work. You would slip a bullet that looked real but was not inside of those loops to give the character effect. Also, if you want to see your actor load the weapon on camera for close camera work, they would use dummy rounds to load the weapon so it looks like they're loading it, but obviously they're not loading it with live rounds. It's dummy rounds. And those are examples, but dummy rounds do not fire. When they want to see the effect of the gun going off, hear it, see it, then you put the blank round in it. The blank round, once detonated, produces fire, smoke, and sound, but no projectile. Nothing comes out of the end of that gun other than those things and powder that burns up immediately upon being expelled. Past a few inches, a pistol wouldn't be deadly. Past a few feet, it wouldn't be harmful. And then when I say harmful, I mean scorching of the skin, some of the unburnt powder maybe hitting you and burning your skin a little bit. That's why we take those distances and multiply them times a factor of 4 to make sure that they're well past anyone that is even in the vicinity Also, the firearm is never pointed directly at someone either. One of the four safety rules that actors should receive in training is never let that weapon cover or be pointed at anything you're not willing to harm. So no matter what it looks like in a movie, it's always an off-camera angle and always being aimed away from and not never directly at.
You treat it like it's real, even if you know that it's not.
Exactly right.
Brian, the other thing that caught my attention, there are reports that ammo was left unsecured on a cart on this set with some additional ammo inside that prop truck. Is it standard procedure to have ammo lying around like that?
Not the way that myself and other professional armorers conduct business on a set. Again, I have no understanding or experience or knowledge, I should say, about Ms. Reed's professionalism or anything she's worked on. I do not know her. I can only speak for myself and my other colleagues that do this exact same job. We make sure that the ammunition is secured. It cannot be intermingled with even the blanks and dummies are kept completely separate. The dummy rounds always are a particular concern to me because obviously they simulate and look like a real round in appearance. So even if you're on location, let's just say a movie production company hires someone a location scout to go out and find a location to shoot at, and they're renting that property, then I do a safety sweep of the entire property that we're going to be filming in to make sure that no one outside of the film crew brought anything in there. And
so I think it's important to say, okay, so obviously this guy's like taught, no, he came from the military, okay, and retired, and then he went in, to show business, and this is what he does. There is no, there are like best practices that, are released out of the unions, but there were some union problems on the set of Rust, okay? I'm going to play some clips from a gentleman by the name of Lane Loper. He's one of the few that were talking to press afterwards. And he makes some really heavy claims. And since then, a lot of them have been found to be true. Okay. So, for instance, they had 2 separate occasions of accidental discharge of an unmanned firearm. Okay. So we now know kind of, that's enough for us novices to understand the difference now between blanks and dummies. Okay. So dummies are going to look like the real thing, but they're going to make a sound. Okay. So you can tell. So yes, they look like real bullets, but if you shake them, there's, BBs inside. It's not a real bullet in terms of what it'll do. It's just made to look like it. It has that front piece though. It has a projectile on it, but it's incapable of firing. Okay. So when we're talking about rust, we're talking about blanks. Okay. What's interesting about that though, is that blanks do have a totally different look. They are meant to create the smoke and the fire and all that, but there is not a projectile on the end. That tells you a little bit about the absolute negligence needed. So we're talking there's a sound if we're dealing with, a scene where he's loading the gun. Well, that's not what this scene was. And we know that it was blanks. The other 2 in that gun were blanks. But somehow this live round that only would simulate the look of a dummy, only without that sound, this is indicating someone wasn't paying attention to what they were doing when they were loading that weapon. Okay. The lawyers for Hannah Gutierrez Reed. So let's go back to those, the text I showed you guys before. So what they're saying is that she spoke to Seth Kenny, who owns the company that they're getting all of their supplies from, right? She had asked him, hey, can I fire this gun? She was very enamored with this antique gun that was for the set of the Nick Cage movie. Can I fire this? Can I get some rounds? And he said, no, you can't, that's not appropriate. Now her attorneys are going out of their way to be like, oh, it's a historical weapon, but it would be after hours. She wouldn't be on the clock. She's going to be off the production set, blah, blah, blah. Well, he's saying, no, that's not cool. Never fire through prop weapons. Now, her attorneys say, Hannah listened, okay? This is just me, and this is my own opinion. having listened through a lot of her interrogations, having read through so many articles, for me, she seems to always blame other people.
Mm-hmm.
There's always multiple witnesses to something that she claims is their error. Okay. So she's saying she didn't do this. People from the old way say she did. And in fact, she was firing rounds with people from the like production members, and they were still on grounds. So we don't know about that particular gun, but we know she was breaking other rules enough to where she pissed off she almost lost that job. Nick Cage was like over her. Okay. So Lane Loper, sorry for all my conservatives watching, but he is being interviewed by Chris there. So let me grab this because this is interesting. There's a couple. So he is from the set of Rust. Lane Loper is from Rust, and he had a lot to say. You're going to hear here, and actually, honey, if you want to chime in at some point, because I know you know a lot about this, you paid a lot of attention to the union walkouts and stuff. There had been safety complaints on the set of Rust leading up to this. He's going to talk about the 2 weapons that discharged. He quit the movie the day before this happened due to safety concerns. Safety concerns were cited in a union walk-off earlier the same week. There was one separate issue that was going on, but safety concerns were cited in addition to some things around, it's relevant because they're being tightwads, right? The production schedule and the days of filming were going longer than they were supposed to. They wanted the producers, the movie, to ante up to pay for a hotel room for production cast, okay? That's in their union contract. So they struck. And the movie was like, who cares? Okay. So they walk off. They're done, right? They replace them then with non-union crew members. The union is one of the few things in Hollywood that sets a standard. Okay. There's not like a rule book. So being a union movie, having union workers, that is what signals to your investors that you are following a certain protocol, a certain standard of business. It's over, right, on this one. Everyone that walked off and was, essentially doing a standout over safety, and it also is and in my opinion, by the way, it also factors not just because it shows some of the tightwad nature that this movie was operating on, but it also shows, it's a safety issue for them. There's all kinds of roles in a movie where they're moving around machinery. It's obviously gun heavy. There's safety issues when your crew is being forced to sleep in their cars and then report back for a morning call. It's a little disturbing, but I was interested in his take on things because he was there, and understanding that the other side to this story would be, people would say that because he walked off, he has reason to, so just kind of listen to it, make up your own mind what you think might be the deal.
Because crew members are coming forward, you're about to meet one of them, who wanted off of that set because of unsafe working conditions. Okay? Our guest was Rust's camera chief. He left the day before all this happened. His name is Lane Loper. Lane, thank you very much. A couple of tech questions off of you, and then we'll talk about your situation. First, do you buy the sabotage theory?
No. And if they have any evidence of that, they should be talking to the sheriff and not morning television shows. It's dangerous and it's an irresponsible theory to put out on TV.
And you never heard anybody saying that they wanted to do something like that, or have any inclination of why someone would try to do something like that?
No, absolutely not, Chris. A movie set's, it's a group of friends. Everybody there, they deeply care for each other.
Right. Oh, look, their job, if there's any litigation, is going to be to cast doubt. That's what they're doing there. They don't have to prove it, remember.
So I want to say too, so you'll notice even just the thing here. So there, and I'm going to show one of the responses to Lane Loper here in a minute from her attorneys, but her attorneys came back early on and said she loaded it with dummies. So given everything we just heard, there's a question there. The test angles that were being looked for would, and indeed the other two bullets in there, that was not even correct. Okay, so the rest armor thought she loaded with dummies. No, she had a live round and two blanks, not dummies, which now we know look like real bullets, but they are incapable of detonating. They won't go off. They're just there for the look of it. So if it's in a belt, right? Nick Cage's belt, Alec Baldwin's belt would have been loaded with dummies. If Halyna was shooting, Halyna and Joel together were shooting something where Alec Baldwin was loading the gun, then that would have been dummies. So this wasn't even the appropriate, her initial claims about what was put in that gun were incorrect, first of all. But number two, this shows her inexperience, doesn't it? Because it would not have even been the appropriate selection for what they were doing that day. Halyna wanted to get, but there's another thing that came up, and I want to be fair, right? Because I don't want to sound too pro Alec Baldwin here, because I do think he has liability, but I think he has liability as a financial backer of the movie and someone who was on set every day. You heard the prior expert say you're never supposed to aim it at something, right? In interrogations, he's been conflicted whether he fired it or didn't fire it. Both things have been said. What's not up for debate is that he aimed that gun at the camera that had Halyna and Joel Souza behind it. And according to industry standards that Brian just gave us, you're never supposed to do that. Now, Alec Baldwin was pulled into his interrogation. He didn't know yet the final outcome. And I picked this photo of him because this is the moment he finds out she passed away. And there was time before this instant, and I have this one in the playlist. Okay, so his is in the playlist. What are you doing? Why are you moving my stuff?
I don't know.
I'm not.
I didn't click that.
I didn't either. There you go. There's some of our stuff. There was about a 15-minute period that they were talking prior to him finding this out. And he was explaining some of the inner workings, of a set, and not just this set, but his prior experience he's been in movies with guns and stuff before. He thought that what happened to her is what happened to Joel, which Joel got the molten, flesh burning injury, right? From being that close. He didn't realize she'd been shot. He was literally going through, and you can hear him brainstorming the different things that maybe had gone wrong, but he certainly was not even prepared that she might have that it was a live round and she got shot. Hannah's attorneys, aside from making these kind of wackadoo claims that don't fit, other than it fits with someone with very little experience, began to claim sabotage. And that's what one of the first questions asked of Mr. Loper was what do you think of that? And he's going to go on from there.
But the idea that someone who's an armorer could load dummy bullets and actually be loading live rounds and not know it, even if they say they inspected the rounds. Try that.
I mean, that would, in my opinion, that's sheer negligence. It's not paying attention to what you're doing. It's absolutely your responsibility as the armorer to make sure that you're properly loading the firearm and inspecting it before and after, and also not loading the firearm until right before you're going to shoot.
Well, and I would go farther than what he just said in that it's negligent. I mean, the time was when it was being loaded. The time was when you're inspecting the bullets. When you remember that there's, we're talking about 3 different kinds now. It's a live bullet. It's something that looks like a live bullet, but that should make a little bit of noise. And if you look at it, it's going to have a marking. Okay, that would be a dummy. Or it's a blank, which is going to fire, but doesn't have the tip on it that is going to project. So you're going to have the fire, the noise, the sparks. I mean, where she's so far off. Now, I will disclose, though, this was a very early on interview. Okay, so we're over a year out from this now. He hasn't done a lot since in terms of interviews. So that's why I went back to this one, because I just felt it was better. So I'm going to let this play to the end now. It goes for another 3 minutes.
You see, we actually have instructions for that. We have industry-wide safety bulletins that specifically spell this out.
Now, you left the job right before because of safety concerns. I want you to talk about it in the context of the response from the Rust producers, okay? Mr. Luper's allegations around budget and safety are false, patently. He had absolutely nothing to do with or knowledge of safety protocols or budgets. Safety is always the number one priority in our films, and it's truly awful to see some using this tragedy for personal gain. You make the case of why you had legit safety concerns.
Chris, to borrow a phrase from the producers, first of all, it's patently false that I'm not responsible for safety, because it's everybody's responsibility on set for safety. Everyone from the production assistants all the way up to the top producers. So that's completely out the window in my book. As far as budgets and things like that go, that whole argument, it doesn't matter, because what happened is safety concerns were overlooked consistently. And
so he's going to talk about it here. So I want to make sure that everybody understands. I'm going to back it up like just a couple seconds here, because he's going to go into it now. These are confirmed. So he's going to bring up 3 different instances, because this is where the tapestry gets a little more rich. Okay. Is Alec Baldwin to blame? Now, I would have said before, no. What he said here, to me, it's interesting, because by then they had the whole union issue, right? They'd had a whole walkout where 50% of the reason cited was lack of safety on set. So this is a known issue to all 9 of the producers.
Well, they were being treated like
just, well, right.
Like,
I mean, it was like
subcontractors and not the union.
Yeah.
They weren't given proper.
And then,
anything.
But yet this is the only guy on that sort of upper tier. He wasn't a producer, but like upper tier level production crew that quit, that walked out. And it was the day before this happened. So it
doesn't matter, because what happened is safety concerns were overlooked consistently, and it led to somebody dying on a movie set. And that's the problem here, in my opinion.
Do you believe that your decision to leave this set, had you ever done that before?
No, absolutely not. It's unheard of, and to be honest, I'm terrified of my own repercussion. For them to say that this is for personal gain, it absolutely isn't. I don't want to be in front of cameras. My whole career is spent behind them.
What was your biggest concern that made you leave the job?
Well, it started out with all these red flags throughout the entire course of the production. It started with a lack of safety meetings. It started with inexperienced key personnel. A lot of people being brought in from out of town. It was one red flag after another red flag until finally, there was the negligent discharges that happened on October 16th, where, there were 2 firearm discharges that were not under anybody's control. And at that point, they should have stopped filming, pulled the firearm out of circulation per the industry-wide safety rules, but we kept filming anyway. And they never addressed it. And I addressed it with the producers themselves.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Look, Lane, I appreciate you coming forward and doing this and giving us some context on these allegations that have just come out and a feel for what was going on this set. Thank you. Lane Looper, I appreciate you.
Okay. Lane Looper's interview, this one we just played, is on there because I know it could be soft to hear and whatever. There's live rounds that were found around there. It's something that's, known. He dropped the bomb that since has been confirmed that there were two in the same freaking day, misfires of guns that were not under anyone's control. So they literally, because these are historical guns, you guys, these are old school, antique kind of things, right? They're going off without anyone touching them. Why are they being stored with blanks in them? Why? Now, I don't know shit about this. I haven't been able to find anything. But he alludes to it where he's and they shouldn't be loaded until this, right when you're going to need them. To preload them like that, that's got to be something. But they would have had to be preloaded to go off. Now, he says that he went to people. He didn't say who, because now we're perfectly aware. We're talking about executive producers, main producer, there was one producer who literally was sort of the go-to, the hands-on, and it wasn't Alec Baldwin, the one who oversaw the operation. And he cut a deal really fast. Okay. And that's where we get to talk about the political elements. And we're going to go into the OSHA. We're going to go in to our updates. And then I am going to spend the rest of the time in chat with everyone else. Let's go to OSHA. So fast forwarding to now. Okay. Reminding everyone, the civil suit against Hannah Gutierrez Reed by the family is still open. The other has been settled. The terms of the settlement are not known, but what popped up at the same time is that suddenly production is back on. He is named a producer. So the 10th producer, and had a role in it is, Halyna Hutchins' replacement on the set of Rust is somebody she would have wanted. Okay. Also this week, though, OSHA conducted its assessments. Let's read that. I'm going to share my screen so everyone can see it with me. We're going to go through this because it's interesting what they found. All right. DA and OSHA disagree on Alec Baldwin's culpability as a Rust producer. Okay. Investigators spent more than a year sorting out blame for the death of Halyna Hutchins, the cinematographer killed on the set of Rust. In the end, two agencies came to two sharply different conclusions about Alec Baldwin's level of responsibility as a producer of the film. Prosecutors charged Baldwin for firing the gun that killed Hutchinson, but also for management failures that created a hazardous set. We'll talk about their exact charges here. I don't agree with Variety's characterization there. We believe Baldwin, as a producer, knows everything that's going on the set. Prosecutor Andrea Reed said on Fox News. The Five last month. Okay, so that's the name of the show. There were a lot of safety concerns that were brought to the attention of management, and he did nothing about it. That's a true statement. But who was management to the people that were on the ground there? Okay. But in the parallel proceeding, the New Mexico division of OSHA found that Baldwin was not in charge and was not the one culpable for any lax oversight. He didn't actually have employees on site that he or his delegated persons would manage or oversee, remembering that his manager, like his career manager, was also a producer. So they're saying neither of the two, because they're looking at his manager as an extension of him. Says Lorenzo Montoya from OSHA, who was the lead investigator, in a deposition last month. So this was a deposition for the civil suit. Aside from his personal assistant, Montoya said, he had no employee present. He's just him. The divergent conclusions could complicate efforts to hold Baldwin criminally responsible. They also raise questions about why, if the prosecutors wanted to pursue management failures, did they not charge others in the production's hierarchy? Here we go with the political stuff. Reed, a Republican member of the New Mexico legislature, was appointed last August by the Santa Fe DA, who is a Democrat, to serve as the special prosecutor on the case. In an interview on Hannity, Reed said that politics plays no role in the decision to charge. But some have argued that Reed has a political incentive to target Baldwin, who's known for his liberal views. I will stop right there and say even liberals have issues with Alec Baldwin. If people don't remember, he made a whole lot of homophobic slurs not all that long ago, and it was actually his SNL shit that like brought him back into like people got forgiving about it, you know. But just know he's problematic in that realm too. They're trying to grab headlines and sensationalize this for politics, and it really bothers me, said Dan Lindsay, a defense lawyer in Clovis, New Mexico, where Reed has been a prosecutor for 25 years. They're way off base here. Hutchinson's death was the result of a chain of errors. Investigators have failed to assign blame for the first link of the chain, the contamination of a box of dummy rounds with a handful of similar-looking live rounds. Complicating matters further, filmmaking in general is a collaborative enterprise and it's not always clear who should be reporting to whom. But the OSHA investigation laid ultimate management authority on producer Ryan Smith and his company, Rust Movie Prods. Okay, I want to take a break right there. Ryan Smith took the lead of this to the point where he created a separate company named for the movie, and he is the one that is dealing with oversight and employee issues. Ryan Smith, okay, going back to the article, Ryan Smith was like, this is from the OSHA report. Ryan Smith was identified as the boss by multiple of people as for employees. OSHA was especially critical also of David Halls, the first assistant director, who was in charge of set safety. Okay. So there's another like insight into the world, you guys. Do you see what a shit show this is? Like, think about how many jobs, you know, we've all worked at in our life. You know, there's all different kind of, you know, industries, but we all have that conversation where we could complain about how fucked up it is and nobody knows who's reporting to who, or there's too many chiefs, you know, all that kind of thing. This sounds like it's like no matter how long you've been working in movies, everything is different, right? So it's like OSHA sounds like what they had to do is identify who does what. So here you've got Hannah Gutierrez Reed, which by the way, $8,000, second time as the armorer, but she was also the prop master, which is usually a separate job. She was put in charge of doing two jobs, what is usually two people. And she's doing both of them for less than $8,000. Okay. That imputes something about the motivations behind that. But David Hall, in charge of safes and set safety, right? That was his designation for the movie. The agency faulted him for not taking the action to address 2 accidental discharges of blank rounds 5 days prior to Hutchinson's death. Okay, so that in the OSHA report itself, the claims made by Loper were confirmed. Baldwin's stunt double fired a blank by mistake, Halls testified to OSHA. What the bleep is okay, and that the stunt double is the one who said what the bleep is going on here, but he didn't find it concerning enough to order a full-blown investigation. That's related to David Hall, another person on the set. So we've got in the production realm, identified as the one charged with overseeing everything, Ryan Smith. Safety agent on set is David Halls. So in relation to David Halls, going back to this, David Halls testified that if he had a safety concern, he would have reported it to the producers, but he did not. So he never reported anything. In a probable cause statement, the DA office blamed Baldwin and Gutierrez Reed, but not Hall, for failing to address these misfires. The DA also faulted Baldwin for not ensuring that safety meetings were being held, contributing to a climate of recklessness on set. Well, whose job would it be to set up and hold safety meetings? The safety officer, who was David Halls, who was never charged. But in his deposition, Hall said that it was his job to oversee and convene safety meetings. In addition, the DA blamed Baldwin for allowing the hiring of Gutierrez Reed, despite her inexperience. However, Gabrielle Pickle, the line producer, testified that she hired Gutierrez Reed after consulting with Halls and director Joel Souza. Okay. Pickle testified this industry is the most collaborative decision-making industry that I've ever worked in. She did not mention Baldwin as a participant in the hiring process. Baldwin has denied any involvement and has said that his producer role was limited to creative choices, such as casting decisions and overseeing script changes. So hearkening back to the beginning of our time here together today, he had co-script credit with Joel Souza. Okay. Gutierrez Reed testifies that 7 people had some role in supervising her work, including Halls, Pickle, the unit producer and manager, and the prop master, which is interesting because she became the prop master. So there must have been a prop master before. Baldwin was not among them, however. OSHA can refer its findings to the state attorney generals for prosecution. The agency did not do that in this case because the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office was already investigated. So this ended up with 2 different things. So they just reached different outcomes here. Asked about the different conclusions reached by the 2 investigations, May says that OSHA gave its case filing. He did give its case filing to the DA, but was otherwise uninvolved in their investigation or any of their decision-making process. He referred further questions to the DA's office and then declined to comment. Smith was not charged with a crime, nor was Rust Movie Productions, which is the company that was set up. You know, we won't get into all of that. But when you set up an LLC or an S Corp, you're doing that intentionally to limit your liability in case shit happens, okay? If something goes wrong with that business, that's who would get sued. It's to limit your own liability. But they didn't go after the company. Of the 5 other producers, it was only Baldwin who was charged. Gutierrez Reed was charged with involuntary manslaughter for mistakenly loading a live round into Baldwin's gun. She and Baldwin both face up to 18 months in prison, blah, blah, blah. Halls was the only other person prosecuted. He was allowed to plead no contest to a misdemeanor, no jail time, because he was the least culpable. So the safety guy, least culpable, he got a misdemeanor. Let's fast forward. So what's missing from there, if you follow this at all, is that each Baldwin and Gutierrez Reed were both charged with the same charges. And those were not 2 separate manslaughters, involuntary manslaughters, but 2 different forms. It's consider them like options. Okay. So they're being charged with involuntary manslaughter. There's 2 different state statutes. They're being charged under both of them. And what that does is it allows a jury, if it goes that far, to say, okay, so this element wasn't met. It's like when someone's charged with first degree murder and you put second degree under there too. That's what that is. Okay. Maximum sentence is 18 months. However, they also charged both of them with a guns, like rider is what we would call it here in New Jersey. Let me look for their language. Enhancement is what it is in New Mexico. So they're charging both of them with, so it's like an A and B layer. Okay. So they got their A charge, which is the manslaughter, but they tack on this gun charge. Well, the gun charge brings with it 5 years. Okay. So whereas if they're found guilty of either of the involuntary manslaughter options, 18 months is like the highest penalty. When they put on this enhancement or rider, it becomes, 6.5 years. That's what made like sensations when this first happened. Well, this past week, Alec Baldwin's attorneys filed motions because the law that carries this gun enhancement, the gun enhancement law, went into effect. Okay, so keep in mind the date that all of this happened on the set, right? The gun enhancement law that they cited on both of their charges that would carry that 5-year penalty went into effect in May of 2022. For those that don't know, a legislature cannot pass a law after a, quote unquote crime or alleged crime has happened. You can't retroactively go back and charge them under a law that didn't exist in the time, right? This is shitty lawyering. I mean, that's just all I'm going to say. Shitty work. Okay. If Rust itself was like a shitty production set for a movie, this is like shitty production in the prosecutor's office. How do you miss that? Okay. So they did this real bravado filled statement that I'll have to pull up for next time. It's like kind of like essentially they're accusing his attorneys of just running up they're calling them like city slickers is what they're doing, and saying, well, they'll anything to like put on a show. They're saying it's a PR stunt. Well, no, because they actually did drop those charges for both of them. Because that's a oopsie, right? So Hannah Gutierrez Reed had her first court appearance, okay? And now, so both of them dropped, so both of them now are only facing 18. What the hell is this?
What's her first court appearance?
Oh, you pulled it up.
Yesterday.
Look at you. There you go. Because it's all, I do have the tape. I'm just not going to play. It's boring, you guys. It's boring. What comes out of it is, I hope you're sitting down. She's been allowed to maintain a firearm.
Because Short got stalker.
She does have a stalker. She has a stalker, and that's actually been confirmed. She has a protection order against the person.
The state didn't redact her address and phone.
Yes. And so she's been getting death threats. So yes, so she's been getting death threats. She's been getting all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the state didn't so again, prosecutor's office didn't redact her like location and put it out there.
I'm sorry,
Can you believe
as
that
fucked
shit?
up as I think she is and as culpable and all that other shit, yeah, let her have it. I don't care.
Well, the judge did. So
that's
Alec
what I'm
Baldwin,
saying. I'm like, you motherfuckers, really? You just doxed her complete location. Let's go stick some GPS shit on her car, all kinds of, I mean, you could go insane. And, but I would let her have.
On the flip side of this, though,
or a bow and arrow.
Alec Baldwin has been cleared to resume communication with potential witnesses, right? Because he's getting ready to go back on location. So the court cleared him to not only handle guns back on the set, but he's allowed to like commingle. Now, of course, there's an admonition to not speak about the case, but he's about to be all up with it, including with the family, who clearly he's reached some sort of an agreement with. So I thought that was very interesting. Now, that wasn't all they did, though. So, by the way, quietly they dropped this and then they put out this like begrudging statement about how they're just wasting everyone's time and grandstanding. So fine, we'll just cave in. It's like, no, dudes, like you can't charge somebody with a law that wasn't even in effect, for another 7 months. It just doesn't work that way. That's not even state, kind of stuff. But there's a political element that came into play. Okay. There is now a motion on the table to disqualify that special prosecutor that we just read all that about. Because They certain, and this is where I get to draw it over to the Murdaugh case a little bit too. Because it's an acting member of the state legislature, okay? In order to have a special prosecutor, the executive branch has to allocate money for that the legislature has to vote on, and then it funnels into the court system. So they have put in something trying to disqualify the current special prosecutor because they're an elected official, citing the conflict of interest and some constitutional problems with division of the branches. Very interesting. I cannot wait to kind of hear what happens from it because it's super interesting. One thing that I saw in like the comment section of different articles is obviously Alec Murdaugh's trial is like really big news. Well, his lawyer is a state senator, but he's a private attorney. He's not being paid by the public. You know what I mean? He's being paid by his client.
By Roro and Spit Cup.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Papa and all them.
Papa and Spit Cup paid Roro to send on some.
So that's kind of what makes it different.
Yeah.
But this one is very interesting. In the end, because of so for you, honey, right? Other people probably know, but the executive branch is in charge of administering the budget that has been passed by the legislature, right? So all the budgeting stuff is coming out of the state's legislative arm, Senate and Congress, which is where this person serves. This is a really interesting argument. I'm just eager to see where it goes because essentially this person has like maneuvered their own salary. And as a legislator, the courts, believe it or not, in a lot of states, most of the states, are always underfunded. I mean, it's one of those things people just don't get. And people can understand when we hear that fire is underfunded or police are underfunded. The courts are often underfunded. This becomes kind of like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours sort of situation. And that's part of the argument they're making too. But I just think it's going to be really interesting. So we could see a change. But we'll see. So it's Article 1, if you guys are interested at all, Article 1 of the New Mexico Constitution. State Constitution. So they're claiming a conflict of interest. So we talked about that. Let me see. Did I miss anything I wanted to talk about today? Nope, that's what I wanted to cover today. All right, I'm coming over into chat. I'm sorry, you guys, because I didn't see any chatting up until now. I'm just going to go into my channel so I can watch along with everybody. And so this is just part one. I wanted to get everything sort of out there. Because I do think that the basics of this leave wide open a conversation to be had. I think a lot of people have different ideas about it. But it's like the more I dug in, the more I'm like, it's easy to, even myself, I had these like notions about, well, he's a producer, he should know this, this, and this. And as things have come out, I'm going, okay, so now it's a little different. Now I feel a little different. But I keep going back. Let me mute. Sorry. But because we're kind of going through Loper stuff, I'm like, I don't know, there's something like inside of me that's going, well, isn't he the one who did the right thing by walking out? If you're seeing something like this and you're just going to let it, and it really could become a life or death situation, which it did. And that's what I think is fucked up too, is that they were accusing him of like doing this. Gutierrez Reed's lawyers are accusing Loper of like speaking out because it's going to do something for his career. No, it actually kind of blacklists him. I mean, this is a blemish on his career to just walk off of an Alec Baldwin film. You know what I mean? That shit follows you around. People talk. Oh, I need 114 rows. I'm at 88. Actually, I need one. I'm 115 subs away from 1,000. Hold on, let me get in streamer. Fucking spit cup and pawpaw. I can't. Okay, so it's totally off base, but I'm looking at who's in chat. I'm like, these my people, right? Did anyone else see like in the like banners going this morning that he got back to jail last night after testifying, and somehow like the details weren't out at least this morning when I went to go get Aiden. I haven't had a chance to look since, but apparently Alec Murdaugh got charged with another misdemeanor for some bullshit he pulled in jail when he got home last night.
Probably betting buns on the fucking bowl, the super. They're like, look here, stanky leg spit cup bet 2 buns, and he was like, I'm gonna tell y'all what. I'm not saying I didn't bet on it. I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying I don't recollect it. And they were like, look here, Al. This was fucking 5 minutes ago.
Crafty.
Yeah. Look here, Alex. You know, that one with a C, one with an X.
Right, yeah.
Look here, Alex. This was 10 minutes ago. How are you not recalling?
And of course, all of us like watching through all that stuff right before I'm doing something on Alec Baldwin, and I'm like, please just don't let me start like messing up like Alec.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you it's over the damn. They weren't aware, you know. They were like, oh shit, yeah, he's been illegally betting honey buns on some fucking.
Yeah. Well, I listened to that phone. I did listen to
ball.
the phone call you talked about, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, he kind of. Well, it's you know what it is. It's very blasé given what he's in jail for, and like all these like things that are hanging out in the stratosphere. I was like, really?
I think it's going to come out. I think it's somehow going to slip out. It's just been overlooked or something.
It's because Buster was out there like betting off in Las Vegas and shit with all this stuff going on. So he's like, yeah. Well,
that was their way of trying to make the money back. They were going to slip in.
My next door neighbor Ray.
Yeah.
And I put up some beef stick. What do you say? Meat sticks.
Meat sticks.
It wasn't even beef sticks. It was meat sticks. I was like, okay, maybe it's a southern thing.
Meat sticks and some was it chips or something?
Is all I could do.
Meat sticks.
Luckily, I'm very interested in this case, and there had been all this movement on it this week that I was so excited to like share. Because part of me just really wanted to bag it and be like, okay, let's talk about the Murdaugh case.
Well, I know, but then, you know, it was like, damn, she's all up in there begging for a gun. She's like, I need a gun. And it's like, well, you know, the state could have came back and said, well, no, look, you aren't really good with guns right now. So how about we relocate you to a
But does anybody else find it interesting? Yeah, thank you for that. So going back to this, anyone else find it interesting that in the end, both of them have been allowed to operate weapons?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting.
That's the only caveat I have. Like, on the other hand, though, the state is responsible for doxing her fucking location, but they should have just dropped it back on the state to pop her in some protection program. Put her up in the fucking Hilton and
well, she's already relocated. She did have to relocate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a big oversight. Again, no matter what you've
done.
So
to that end, I'm on the fence.
That's like you expect that, you know, like from Dorothy, you know, or, you know, somebody here on YouTube, right? Oops, I forgot to read that. Like, really?
The
like,
judge could have said, I'll let you have one as long as you aren't the one loading it.
Well, and as you can see, though, I mean, this is how they're doing their court hearings still out there. So it's just kind of like, yeah, that's a big deal to mess up on her address, because she's been getting death threats. That's been confirmed, you know. So that's a little bit something. I just thought it was interesting.
It's 6 of one, half dozen the other.
I just think it's interesting that both of them can operate weapons. Now she's limited to one, and he's limited to on the clock stuff. He can't operate personal weapons, but he's allowed to go right back and you know, because these are real guns. These aren't dummy guns that they're operating. What puts me on
the side where I'm still like, yeah, let her have a fucking gun, is if the judge would have said, no, you can't, she's still gonna. I mean, she's got guns up the wazoo.
The prosecution did object to it. They're like, there's other options, such as relocating and pepper spray and, you know, these kind of things. And it's like,
yeah, pepper spray 20 yards across the street with a gun pointed at you. Maybe my pepper spray will reach all the way over there and they won't hit me with their retaliatory gunfire.
Oh, that's sweet, Vanessa. Thank you.
So I guess I am. Yeah, let her have a freaking gun. She's gonna have one anyway.
Well, I
that
do.
may be what the judge
Under
is
the
like.
circumstances, I do think that that's
Protect
you know.
yourself.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. I appreciate that. Thank you. We're getting close. We're getting close. Very excited as I'm watching. I'm
If
like,
you sub today and create an alt and sub again and create another alt, share, like, and sub on that.
I'm about
one.
to tell Aiden, like, can you just go
Right.
around to all your little college friends in your dorm and be like, can you just sub my mom? Turn off all your notifications.
See, unlike buying
Please
subs,
don't watch.
we e-bag subs.
Yeah, don't watch her and Crafton because that's fucking embarrassing. But can you just sub to that? Maybe you can work a deal with him.
Just make sure you don't hit the bell notification.
Yeah, just
Right.
don't hit the bell and like don't watch them, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you do, I mean, you will find $100 tomorrow. It will happen. If you sub today.
And your truth fortune teller skills have been nullified.
No, when we
so-
get taken to court, I say no. I use the word tomorrow. Tomorrow never gets here. Okay, I'm unmuting.
Okay.
All right, we're back on.
Sure thing, Crafton.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Right?
Row and Bus will bring you some meat sticks, and you get a free spit cup for every sub that you bring. We'll send you your own signed spit cup.
Row and Fifi.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Ken over there has got a.
Ken. Yep.
Yeah, he's like, I like that. He's like, give me a treat, bitch.
Did you ever give him one? Because I
Yeah.
gave the cat some, but I'm out of his over here.
You did good, Kenny. Yeah, you told that car they weren't allowed to park in their own spot.
So I don't know. So next week I was thinking of just doing like an open panel on this. Everyone, I did not get to read it. This is one I'm actually gonna rewatch back just so I can read through chat. Does he have a beef stick store? Meat sticks. I've never heard them called meat sticks.
Meat stick. Give me a meat
I heard
stick.
about-
That's instead of the flat beef jerky. It's those round ones.
Murder by eye drops. I've heard of this. If you put like 2 drops of like Visine or something. Remember? We saw that on Snapped, I think.
Yeah, but I've tried that several times, and all it did
Didn't
was give
work.
them diarrhea. Yeah.
Crafton doesn't want to share his idea.
You want to know how you do it? You get away with it. All right, I'm gonna break it out.
You want to come up on panel?
Yeah.
And then I'll
yeah.
mute so that way.
No,
they can
don't
actually
mute.
hear.
Just stay there so they can hear me over here. Hi. I moonlight often as a DJ, but today I'm a live bubble.
Aw.
And there we go. That's my real face.
No.
So what you do is you get a bunch of water. You wait until it's like really cold outside, right? You
Here we
put
go.
the hose on the side of your roof and let it just drip down, kind of, so that it freezes this really long dagger-like icicle. You follow me? You with me on it?
I'm with you. I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, there you go. No murder weapon at the crime scene
So we joke about this all the time, like
because it melts.
because then it melts.
And they're like, oh, well, he was obviously stabbed in some kind of way. We can't find the murder weapon, and there was this mysterious puddle of water all over him.
Right. Mm-hmm. Ooh. We're demented people over here. Let's just exchange ideas.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually in a movie. I saw that in
Well, I'm going to send some care.
Fargo.
I'm going to send some care packages of some icicles, Visine, and poppy milk.
No, I've
to some
heard
people.
putting Visine in people's stuff gives them like massive
Yeah.
diarrhea. I've never
Ooh,
poisons them.
Sugar Beet just refined your whole
Ice
thing.
bullets. Well, that's
Yes.
that's the movie. What was the movie? They had the bullets were made totally of ice and then they melted in the person. That's where that comes from. I'm actually ripping that off. Whatever
Because
that
the
was.
body heat would like melt it like that. too.
Yeah, it was. Damn, it's one of those like Iron Eagle type fucking movies.
It's like really a blessing when you have like a husband who will sit and listen to this stuff, like was like watch Snapped with you and all that, and not ever get nervous.
Oh no.
Do you ever wonder like what our husbands think of all this or whatever, or like family, whatever?
Well,
And
I'm
they're
still
like, wow, you
used
guys are
to.
so into that
I'm
stuff.
still used to. How old am I? 50 what?
51.
Yeah. Still used to 49 years of utter misery and just wanting it to. Yeah, it's still a new thing to me to not. Yeah. So if I'm like, there's an idea, you could take me out that way, and I'm like, that's usually what I would. There's one right there. I clearly get away with that.
See, I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm like,
you want to help me out here? And then I met you, and then I'm like, I
see
it go by, and I'm like, oh yeah.
I should go get back her cholesterol checked.
Yeah. You could raise my cholesterol a lot. I could.
But I don't know. So what do you guys think? Because I was thinking we could do an open panel for the part 2 of this. Otherwise, this is something I could just report on because there's gonna keep going, with some updates and stuff. But otherwise, I just felt like this was something that everyone had opinions on. And I tried my best today to put it out there. Because in the end, like I said, I can't nail down my opinion on it all the way. Because I'm like, do I think that everyone's responsible? Yeah, I do. I think everyone was responsible there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Alec Baldwin on that. I mean, here, I put it in as an overlay on this little independent movie set, right? Do I think that he is that high and mighty that he has no clue? No. Do I think he has a higher level of responsibility than the average crew member? Yeah. I mean, but there's 9 of them. Okay. So it was interesting to me to find out, they had like a safety designated person,
Mm-hmm.
And, he had nothing to do with hiring. He had nothing to do with safety oversight. He didn't even really have that much to do with the crew. His production title came from being a co-writer of the screenplay and creative control, pretty much. But I'm like inclined otherwise if we don't have enough like fiery opinions about it, one way or the other, we can just like move on to the next thing. Did it pass the Mythbusters? Dying to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Hello, by the way, Sabrina. So Sabrina knew. Most Wanted was the film.
Yeah.
Did it pass Mythbusters? Did it work?
I don't know.
Jeez. It didn't. It didn't work.
Yeah, the heat from the
body, yeah.
The chamber firing it out. By the time it would hit the person, I think it would already be melted. Because that's an explosion.
So your icicle theory was probably
more accurate then.
I mean,
Yeah.
if it can break
it had
eyeglasses like it did in A Christmas Story, I would assume it could really hurt.
Yeah.
Here's the Vanity Fair article that I was reading out of, which is
about the mom from A Christmas Story died in January.
One. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll do an open panel.
How about that?
It's an open panel, can go anywhere with it. So.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Vanity Fair one that I read off, and that's about the OSHA stuff, and then I'll put them all in the description. I'll go back through. Because the one from the LA Times where they had multiple sources was the one that I ended up kind of quoting from and pulling up here for like production roles, because it did really come down to like the role of a producer is not defined, and it ends up being different on each set. So that was news to me too, because I guess I don't know, you guys, I never thought about it. You know what I mean? We watch movies and stuff, but I just never thought about all that. To me, production meant like a producer. I would either think of it as like money, like they're financially backing the movie, or or I think of it as like I would think of a manager in a workplace. You know what I mean? So it was interesting to me to find out, number one, that there could be as many as 6 producers all like being credited that way, and then finding out that it does have something to do with if somebody's going to be, if you're not the director, or if it's not for the acting role or whatever, you have to be a producer in order to be one of those that are honored. That's kind of cocky of them, I guess, to be like, oh, we're in the running for some awards here, but finding out that's a consideration, I'm like, so there's all kinds of different things, right down to just being a ceremonial title. Oh, I'm not sure if it's something you chatted before. I guess I didn't see it. Oh, yeah, I forgot about this, you guys. By the way, speaking of A Christmas Story, the mom died from that. Sad.
Back in January. How did we not even? Oh no, February 3rd or earlier this month.
Yeah, I love that movie. I took Aiden to the Christmas Story like house that they filmed in. It's a museum.
I never put it together.
It's a museum now.
I never put it together that she was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Hey, Jeep Girl, by the way, if you're still here. Yeah, I didn't know that till you told me what you were trying to say. Like I was like, oh.
And she's in Absence of Malice. We need to watch that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna have to go through this. I won't go. What? OSHA shit.
Sabrina said it first. She goes, I love OSHA shit. So I was like, OSHA shit. I was like,
you should care about OSHA. All the bruises you come home with, like hauling equipment. And
yeah, but Sabrina, it's okay because Sabrina
whapping
already
around
did it.
cords and all that.
Yeah. So it's a fair game. Sabrina already did it, so I could do it. What's that thing they tell kids if everybody was...
oh, yeah, okay, I see it now. I love OSHA shit.
If everybody jumped off the roof, would you do it?
It was actually an interesting thing to read, though. Believe it or not, when I was like, oh, God, like OSHA. But I'm like, just knowing that there were two so the DA's like decisions flew in the face of OSHA's recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, well, crap, I guess I'm gonna have to, now that it's out there, I'm gonna have to read the OSHA shit. But I was like, it was actually pretty interesting because they drilled down. It was like a process. They had to interview a lot of people just to designate who had what role. And so it was really interesting. Yeah, he did put in so. So he pled though. He cut a deal, and that's because he was identified as somebody who had responsibility, and he admitted that he was the one who announced Cold Gun. I did not bring that up. Sorry, you guys. There was an in-betweener between Hannah Gutierrez Reed and Alec Baldwin.
Mm-hmm.
So Ryan's the one who actually David, is the one who actually took the gun.
That's what he pled guilty to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Took the gun from Hannah Gutierrez Reed's hand.
Right. And handed it to
Alec, and he's the one who said cold gun, and he had not checked.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, we'll do an open panel. We'll do an open panel. I'm just waiting. I was like waiting for people to get all political with it because it's starting to get political. There's no question now. They've thrown it in there with that motion.
Mm-hmm.
I made it sound more bland than it is, but that's because I'm a dork who worked in, local government. So I'm like, yeah, no, it's an interesting argument. It's an interesting argument. I guess if you're voting on your own salary, that could be a conflict of interest. I guess that's probably me too, I guess too. Yeah, I'm like that too. Okay. Yeah, I am like that too, Sabrina. That's why I'm like into knowing what the rules are. It's part of like fascination with the law. Yeah, I couldn't remember her being in anything else. And then Crafton's the one who said Close Encounters. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see that now. Now I can picture her. She was funny in A Christmas Story, though. She's a good actress. Yeah, it was kind of morbid, though. So we went to A Christmas Story house, and then did you know that Ariel Castro's house was only like 2 blocks down the street?
Oh.
So like this destination that people go to, I forget how many people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like posted there though, how many people go through. But it's like the whole Christmas Story like museum thing, and it's 3 different because they had just acquired the house next door, which was like the Bupkis's house or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they have that, and then they have across the street, they acquired a garage where they keep all the cars from the movie, so you can see all that. And then the house next door was turned into like the gift shop and where you buy your tickets for the museum and all that. So it's literally this like plot of land, this whole square, and then 2 blocks down on like the same road was where Ariel Castro's house was, which is now just like a plowed down lot. But it's kind of crazy when you think about it. It's scary. You gotta sign the waivers. Indeed. Well, I don't know. I just think it'll be interesting. And now, like the max. Well, this is the other thing. So the other thing, you guys, that hit me when they first did it, I'm going, wait, they charged them with the exact same charges. I thought that was weird. I really felt like she should have been like a higher level. And the fact that the person who hired her had no repercussions.
Nepotism.
I don't even know if it's nepotism. For $8,000.
No, not charged with nepotism.
Well, no. But I'm saying no. I'm like, I don't even think it's nepotism. There's no indication that anybody's related to her or anything on there. I think that they thought it was a great deal. They could hire this chick for $8,000.
Her dad was a famous.
Because she was just trying to build her resume. Right, exactly. Because having like the name Reed after your armory thing is something around there, you know?
And the dad got on the phone and said, hire him a kid.
Well, and let's be real. She was already working like the movie. She went from one to the other. So she was already in the area, all of that. But $8,000. And then when the time came, she took on a second role. Because, I mean, so in some ways, think about it. That's like exploiting a young worker, you know? Because they need the experience. I mean, in some ways,
that's
it's like
why she took it. Yeah,
it's in some ways it's like admitting, you know, she doesn't have very much
credits.
Yeah, it's like they knew she didn't have much experience, and they exploited it. In my opinion, they underpaid her, but then you know, the least you could do is heavily supervise her. Then you know, it's crazy. This Russ thing is just a whole mess. And that's why I'm like, ugh. And in the end, it's like, it's just sad because I'm like, yeah, in the meantime, like someone lost their life and it just is the thing less talked about. But I'm glad they reached some sort of settlement, though. And I'm glad that her husband now has that, you know, it's like one of her proteges is now in there. I'm sure some money went to her foundation, you know, and in the end, I'm sure part of his deal is that he's profit sharing off of the movie on the back end. So, but they still have the one towards Gutierrez open, and I'm like, what are you going to get from her? I mean, the chick is like 22. I mean, you guys, I could have, you know how hard it was to find a normal picture because the chick is on OnlyFans. Okay. Like there's so many fucking titty pictures of this chick out there. Most people don't know this, right? She's on TikTok, she's on Facebook, but she's on OnlyFans as well. And she's got all of these like half undressed pictures out there. I mean, it's just kind of bizarre. I wasn't ready for it when I started researching her about just trying to get images. And I'm like, holy crap, where are all these coming from? Like,
Jenny,
they're coming from her.
Have an OnlyFans.
Coming from her OnlyFans. Cool.
You have an only kibble. That's all you have.
He did pretty good for a little while with the squirrel out there. Proud of him. Hey, I wonder what. Really? Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that, Vanessa. Huh. Is it harder for citizens to get guns? I'm assuming there must be some strict gun rules on citizens too, because that would be scary to be a police officer and not allowed to have a gun. He's been dying to get in on this. What is he eating? Did you give him something? What are you eating? What are you licking? He has like a fuzz or something because he's like this.
No, I'm trying to get some on the space.
What did Aiden want?
Access to the dryer.
Oh. Can you just have mom stop her show and come fold this laundry for me? I need to get back to my girlfriend. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I know, obviously because of our Constitution, we have a lot of there's a lot more rights and access given. I just feel like wouldn't it make it more dangerous for people that are law enforcement? But I guess if there's less guns out there, there's less need for guns to defend oneself from guns. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Vanessa, are private citizens allowed to carry guns? Yeah, I just about died though when I realized, I'm like, so hers I get, and his I kind of get too, but I'm like, it's just because isn't it kind of a mindfuck when you think about it? It's like, yeah, here's both of them charged with involuntary manslaughter from a gun, even though they had to drop that that sentence enhancement. It's like the facts of the case are still around irresponsibility with a gun, and yet both of them in the end are allowed to handle weapons pending trial. Mm-hmm. Okay, no guns in the UK.
No, Kenny calls them meat sticks. He's he goes, give me some meat sticks.
Oh goodness. All right. Well, we'll be here Monday. I don't know if we have anything else going on this weekend. Are you doing anything over on Patreon, honey? Talk about Pawpaw and Riri and them.
Bus and spit cup. Spit cup will be there. Stanky leg.
I'll be updating this tonight. By the way, this is last week. Thank you everybody who helped us out last week. Like, we're here this week because of you guys. Yeah. And I keep track throughout the week, and so we'll have a new one that shows up in all our videos next week with everyone from this week. I just really appreciate all of you guys. We're so close. It's like 125 away. Might even be less than that. I haven't looked. Or no, 115.
Yep.
No, 104. Oh, you guys are awesome. Look at that. 104, honey. It's exciting. I'm almost at 900. It's exciting. All right. Well, I guess we will go out. I am hesitating because I'm looking at our song list and I'm like, I liked the song that I started with. I felt like that was a good one when you're getting into like a legal kind of thing. But I'm like, I don't know what to do on these Saturday shows, like on the outro. What do you think, Crafton?
Play that instrumental.
The instrumental techno?
Mm-hmm.
Does that have overlays on it?
There's nothing on
it. Okay.
Hence the word instrumental.
So it's just techno music?
It's just that song without the samples of all the, it's cool.
I will just try it and see what happens. All right, everyone. Well, have a good rest of your weekend. If we go live on Patreon or otherwise, I'll do a community post and announce it. Yeah, the nicknames around here are funny. Only now I'm going to say the nicknames like in a row, like Lysol.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
DJ Beatloaf.
Beatloaf. It's just so fun. We have to talk about him soon because it's like we end up doing it anyway. The guy's funny. I don't mean like funny, like haha. I'm just like, how you're like, oh, you're so fun. It's like that. It's like, well, I don't remember saying that. I might have said that. I didn't do dat dare. Have you noticed that? He doesn't say tease. And I'm just going like, would we actually sit and listen to all this if it wasn't like the Southern accent behind it? Or maybe that's just me. That's what I kept thinking. I'm like, something about his accent with his mannerisms and just how, the story itself is like bizarre. I don't know how we went this long and never really bothered to have a look, but I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things. Like finding out that the kid was still waiting like 2 years later and still hadn't gone to trial. And the town was rumbling and called her like Murder Maggie or some shit about, or something like whatever his wife's name was.
Mags.
Yeah. Because whether it's true or not true doesn't matter. People believed that she like shoved the housekeeper lady.
Mm-hmm.
So these are like the two blemishes on the name, you know. It's just very interesting. It's all a lot of speculation, but definitely the Netflix show you guys like watch.
He didn't even pluralize meat sticks. I want 3 meat sticks.
I didn't notice that.
Hmm.
That's even better. I won 3 meat stick.
Nice.
From Roro next door. He sent it to me with some dental floss and some boxer shorts.
And a bun.
And a bun, honey bun. It was a honey bun.
Honey bun.
Honey bun. Gotta love it. Okay, so we're gonna do the instrumental of Crafton's video. And if we go live, we'll let everybody know. Thank you to everybody who donated, everyone who tuned in, liked, subscribed. I appreciate all of you so much. And we'll do an open panel next week. We'll lead off with the rest discussion, but if there's other cases and things like that, we can do a brainstorming session too on what people want to talk about. So have a good rest of your weekend. I'll see everyone around the streets.
Bye.